You can always reverse it.
We're very excited. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, no, it's a good. Yeah, you came up and to be honest, we've not done a podcast in 18 months or something. We just reject them as standard because there's so much going on in the business. But I just thought it looked different. We'll give it a go.
I suppose a good place to begin is just in your own words. What is OnBuy?
Yeah, we're the world's first cashback marketplace. We connect thousands of sellers with millions of customers, introduce millions of products to the customer, and how we're different from the market is customers can get cashback on all of their purchases. It separates OnBuy from traditional marketplaces that don't necessarily deliver value, and it merges the loyalty and rewards market with the marketplace market to make things simpler, easier for the customer, so that all of that value that they would have to work across multiple platforms to secure can be delivered in one platform.
Cool. So is OnBuy a subscription basis or is it an open marketplace to the public?
Yeah, it's a completely open marketplace. You can come and buy your household essentials through to one-off electronics or one-off big purchases. There are 17 major departments, 600 categories of product, and it's open for anyone to use. And our cashback proposition is available as standard without subscription, without registering. You just got to come and buy something and then you're in.
So I'm sure it's the most common and possibly the most annoying question you'll get, but how does OnBuy differ from someone like Amazon?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. I think that's where our loyalty and our rewards proposition really comes into play. So with Amazon, the whole business model is built around delivery, fast delivery. Quite often, in roughly 48% of cases, it's the seller doing that delivery, which means that the seller's selling through OnBuy. The customer can expect the same transit time that they would get on Amazon. So actually, like for like in terms of marketplace sales. And the good thing about OnBuy is while Amazon charges for that premium sort of service, which 48% is actually the seller doing it, we don't charge for any of our platform. In fact, we do the opposite. We give the customer rewards back for using the platform. So instead of trapping our customers in a subscription and earning loyalty through essentially a subscription entrapment into a product, our whole business ethos was designed that we would reward customers for their loyalty and give customers something back for using the platform. So while Amazon costs money to use, OnBuy actually pays essentially through cashback mechanisms the customers to shop with OnBuy. And the more you use OnBuy, the more you get invited to increased rates of cashback, stronger cashback deals. And we're actually in the middle of launching a whole wave of additional cashback benefits over the next 60 days to the platform that will accelerate that even further. So our entire proposition is rewarding loyalty for our customers.
Do you manage to attain the same pricing as other marketplaces like Amazon and also offer the cashback to the consumer?
That's the business goal. Obviously, the pricing is all based on the sellers that we've got on the platform. Our mission is to win the same sellers that every other platform's got. That takes time. It takes time to secure the retailers. It takes time to build the credibility that secures the retailers. And what we've found over the past 3 years, especially, is as we've started to become recognized for our growth and winning some pretty strong accolades with Deloitte Fast 50 and Financial Times, we're starting to win the retailers that we need to really deliver that value. And we're up to around 4,500 retailers on the platform now, from household brands selling with us all the way through to startup and smaller entities trying to get their name known. The pricing on the platform is expected to be on par with market. The only areas of OnBuy that aren't are where we don't have some of the suppliers just yet, but they're becoming few and far between. We've grown so quickly that we have major retailers across all of those categories. So we're expecting our customers to essentially pay the same for the product that they would pay on other platforms, but be incentivized with those rewards and rewarded for their loyalty on the platform. So net, the price actually works out less.
Have you found that communicating that message about the benefits of cashback have been harder to convey to the consumer or to the retailers themselves?
Well, we don't talk too much to the retailers around the proposition as such, because the retailers don't really care. If you're a retailer selling a product, I guess from a retailer's perspective, as long as they're making sales, they don't really want to get involved in how they're going to sell with as many platforms as makes sense for their business. And we understand that our position for that side of our business, because we have two customers essentially. We have the seller and we have the buyer, and we have to connect those parties, otherwise we don't have a business. We have to make it so that the sellers obtain sales and get value, and it's sticky sales from good customers. That's our one job for the seller. For the customer, it's different. We have to introduce to the customer a proposition that makes sense, that makes them go, well, I usually shop here. Why should I shop with OnBuy? And that's taken a while for us to build up. In the infancy of launching OnBuy, we didn't have a cashback proposition. It was always in the vision, but you can't do that at day one. You need enough supply and enough demand and enough customers to really drop a proposition like that, and it makes sense. We had to build up our supply. Otherwise, what would have happened in the early days of the business is we would have had, say, maybe a few hundred retailers, lots of gaps in our catalog, lots of overpriced products, and then the customer will turn around and say, well, your cashback proposition doesn't make sense if the products are 20% over market rate and you're giving me a few percent back. And that's why we had to hold in the vision. In the first 4 or 5 years of the business, especially going out to venture capital or growing the business, trying to define the proposition, the unique identifying of the business, and how are we going to differentiate as we grow. We had to keep a lot of the cashback vision behind the scenes and not share that information, because we didn't want to be beaten to market in our original vision. So it was very hard at the start to pitch a differentiation. It was very difficult. We obviously did well enough to get the business moving and secure investment and all of the other great things that we've done. But it's definitely easier now that we've brought that original vision to life. We've delivered a differentiation, and I think we're really starting to cut through with the customer. And we are going to cut through even more in the next 60 days as these new pieces and components of cashback come out, because it's going to get stronger, it's going to get more visual. The messages, we've tried different things. We're doing lots of testing in the background, as you can imagine, to try and make sure that we refine our message. So no, I think we're doing a good job of making that clear. Now we're going to do a better job very soon of making it even more clear.
What did you lean on in those years where you couldn't rely on the proposition of the cashback? Was it sort of things to do with customer service, or what were your unique selling points in that period?
Yeah, it's interesting. So to the seller, we would go in there, and there was a really big one, still stands today, is that we don't compete with our sellers. So we have to talk to these two audiences really differently, right? So the seller was saying, we don't compete with you. So we don't sell any products. We're not a retailer of any goods on the platform. We can comfortably say every pound of sales on OnBuy is a pound turnover for one of our sellers, because we don't sell anything. And our sellers have a hard time with marketplaces that do, like Amazon, because there's a constant cat and mouse game of Amazon trying to buy product and compete with the retailer. The retailer starts seeing a deceleration in certain categories because Amazon's really becoming dominant. And then the seller's more inclined to try and find new products, new inventory that Amazon hasn't secured yet. And there's a cat and mouse game. And I come from that market. I used to consult in that space. So, retailers really struggle with this competitive nature that exists on other platforms. And OnBuy didn't do that. From day one, it was a commitment that if we're going to grow, we're growing together. As we grow, you grow. And that's really resonated. So that was something we could lean on the seller side. It was a bit harder on the customer side when we first started out, because we didn't have all of the supply yet. So we couldn't say all of the same sellers without the subscription, or we couldn't say all of these things because we didn't have them yet. We actually have more of them now than we did in the infancy. So we used to focus on being fair to the seller and fair to the customer. By looking after the seller, we were looking after the customer, because we were less manipulative over what we want to sell. We don't have aging stock on a shelf. We want to put the right things in front of a customer. We can be very honest about that. As well as, the British message really worked for us too, saying, well, we're a British marketplace. We're founded in the UK. We, so we're good for the UK economy side. We're not registered overseas, all of those kind of things. But it was a difficult sell, and it led to, particularly in the investment space, a lot of difficult conversations. But we weren't ready to show our hand and say, cashback, rewards, loyalty, because we've simplified that entire rewards market into a single product. I mean, think about cashback, right? It's a multi-billion-pound market in the UK. It's a multi-billion-dollar market in the US. And cashback is extremely complicated. If you've ever used a cashback site or a bank or a cashback product, you've typically got to be shopping anyway and finding the thing that you want to buy. Then think, oh, I'm registered with one of these cashback sites or a bank. Then you've got to go and log into that as a source. You've got to find the promotion or the offer. Then it's going to be riddled with excludes deals, excludes X, Y, and Z, doesn't apply on this category, different rates. Then you've got to click to track through to the retailer. Then you've got to think, has that clicked? There's no visual indication that that's worked. Then you've got to buy the thing, then go back to the original site. Has it tracked? Then you sometimes got to wait up to 180 days, typically 90 days for that to come to fruition. Then there's all of these rules around how much cashback you've got to have. And it's a very convoluted market. And with OnBuy, we said we can simplify this because we're in the transaction. So what we do as a product, which is brilliant, is a customer can come, buy a product, and let's say they're getting 5% cashback on a £100 item. So they're going to get £5. Literally the moment they complete their order, £5 is in their account. They can use that £5 on any purchase immediately on the website, or they can wait 30 days where it becomes eligible to withdraw to their bank account once the returns period passes for the product. So it's simplified, it's upfront and transparent. You see exactly what rates you're going to get on the platform. There's no tracking and complicated terms and conditions, and there's a significantly reduced wait period in terms of actually being able to access the benefit of that cash. If you just want the benefit against another purchase, it's immediate. So it's far better than a loyalty scheme where it's just points and you can't do anything with it. You can actually take this cash to your bank account, right? You can save it up and withdraw it. Yeah. So it's tangible, it's real. And that's really the point of difference that we wanted to hit the market with and say this old way of doing shopping, this old cashback mechanism, and all of those old rewards, that they're irrelevant.
Yeah, well, it felt like most cashback schemes, they want to lure you to the store with the cashback, but they really don't want to give it to you, and they make it very convoluted and difficult for you to actually ever get that
promotional tool,
yeah,
right?
Exactly.
And you don't, as a consumer, you don't know. There's obviously a commercial relationship in the background between the retailer and the cashback entity, whether it's a bank or an affiliate network or a cashback website. There's some other commercial cost going on between those two businesses. There's a promotional cost. And then there's all of these rules around how you get your cashback and when you don't get your cashback. And we were hearing in our user research how many customers were saying, I just never received any cashback. I just became ineligible and I don't know why. And it's very convoluted and it lacks transparency. So from an OnBuy perspective, once you place an order, you can see exactly how much cashback that you received on that order. It's immediately available. And there's a little section in the customer's account that they can press withdraw, and it shows them all of their purchases that are eligible for a withdrawal, or ones that aren't quite eligible, but what date they will be eligible. So it's really simple. By bringing those two markets together, and we're going to be doing a lot in the next few months to really solidify that message and get that message out there, we brought something to the customer that really does differentiate against shopping on other platforms where they're buying that product at the full rate, but they're not being rewarded for their loyalty to that platform. And what that does is it leads customers to a lack of loyalty, a lack of stickiness to the platform that they're on, because they go, well, I'll do a Google search and I'll see who comes up, and I'm not particularly loyal. And if one of those other marketplaces comes up, I'll buy from them, and if someone else comes up, I'll check those out. But customers generally want convenience. The reason why Amazon's done so well with their subscription is because it's convenient. Customers can go, well, do you know what? I mean it. I'm just going to order from it. But what customers are starting to realize, particularly in this market where money's not as freely available, the interest rates are not consumer friendly at the moment. There's a difficulty. There's a cash tightness in market. And customers are being a bit more frugal around what they shop for, when and how. It's a really great opportunity for customers to think, well, is this convenient price that I'm paying on this other platform, let's use Amazon as an example, actually worth it overall? Am I paying more just because I'm in a subscription than what I could be paying if I, used OnBuy, for example? And we're seeing a lot more browsing activity of customers now thinking, well, I'm going to go and see if I can get a better deal elsewhere. But by being in our loyalty scheme and our cashback increasing the more that you're with the platform, we're actually giving customers those greater rewards for using OnBuy. We just wanted to prove to customers that, we're different, and we wanted to reward them for their loyalty. So why should you expect loyalty?
Yeah, sure.
It's earned, right?
I was going to say, was there pressure, from the board or from your team, because actually giving back cash, it seems quite rare in these instances. You only have to have your Deliveroo not turn up and they give you a credit, or they give you a refund in 6 years' time, or whatever it is. But to actually give customers back their cash, were there ever discussions about that not being the case?
I think not really, no. It was the original vision. So for us, of course, it's made for some interesting conversations along the way with people who might not have been privy to the inside mission. But particularly with, say, for example, our first venture capital investor, we were pretty upfront with what we were planning to do. Where it probably got most tricky is come the end of the 2021 business grow at all costs market, where our burn was far more substantial as a business, and we're still talking about round the corner we're going to give away cash on top of this burn. And then the market adjusted. And for those in the tech world who remember the Y Combinator, the famous, infamous Y Combinator letter that went out to market saying it's time to pull back, it's time to be profitable, it's time to, that hit hard for everyone in the tech world. And we're still talking about giving away cash. I think we might have had to remind a few people as to why that was in the mission, but I think it was softened by the fact that OnBuy started to resonate really well with our sellers, with our customers, and we started to hit that profitability, or profitable growth, should we say, and we had our first profitable quarter at the end of 2023. So I think the conversation disappeared into the fact that actually it wasn't stacked on top of a large burn. We're actually able to operate a healthy business while still delivering these values back to a customer.
So you mentioned the profitable quarter at the end of 2023, and the cashback came into play in 2021. Cashback actually didn't properly kick in until late 2022. Right, and so it follows then that it was a success for the company. It was taken along well by your customers.
Yeah, I think it's. I don't think it was the sole driver of our profitability. There was a much larger unit economic focus in the business, but it certainly helped when you think about retention and getting customers to shop again. So we saw some significant movements. In fact, we found that customers, because of our loyalty scheme and how we were rewarding them, alongside the idea that we're not a niche marketplace, we have every product that a customer could possibly want. So it's easy to give a reward, and they can spend it on something completely different. So if I bought a laptop for £500 and I'm getting 5% cash back, I've got £25 in my account. But actually I can come and buy a bulk purchase of cleaning products. That's different. Whereas what you find in market, you've probably found this yourselves, and certainly people listening, you can end up with reward schemes that are on the face of it quite strong. But if you go to a niche website, let's say just a bad example, but let's say bikes, and you have a reward scheme in place that says, look, we're going to give you 10% loyalty points. So you spend £1,000 on a super duper bike, I'm going to give you £100, but you don't need another bike. So it makes it quite difficult. Then they're thinking, well, I've already got everything. I've got these points, they're not tangible, I can't withdraw them, it's not cash. I've got to use it on something. But a lot of these schemes you'll notice in market, it's quite often, they're not enough to make another purchase. You'll see when you go on these sites that have reward schemes, they're enough to chip away at the next purchase. There's a small discount, but they're not enough to buy something. Where OnBuy is so different is you can come and you can earn this cashback, and you can pay for your whole order with cash. Your next order can be completely covered. So I think customers quickly realize the real value of the cash is genuine. You can take it to your bank account. and actually withdraw it and spend it on something completely different if you want. But the idea that you've got this balance and you can just buy something from within your balance, I think that's refreshing for a customer, and it starts to turn OnBuy from what might have otherwise been perceived as a intangible, as a loyalty scheme. It's just some points. I don't know how it works. I don't know how to get them, into something that's exceptionally tangible. You could buy that laptop, get £25, and buy £25 worth of whatever with no minimum spend, and just have that delivered, and it's essentially free. That you would have paid that full price for that laptop on that other website. You bought that for the same price or better on OnBuy, and now you've got this additional value play that's exceptionally tangible. So I think our customers quickly learn, especially the ones who already use us a bit. So it just was something that started to layer on top. Their balances started climbing. They started using it more regularly, and then they realized, hang on, this is real. And that's I think the hardest bit of cashback is the customers have become so used to, the lack of transparency, that it's taking a step back and think when they use it and going, oh, OnBuy didn't trick me with all of these tricky terms and conditions and rules, and
it's called cashback, and it really is cashback.
It really is cashback, yeah.
Because the name got overused a little bit, didn't it?
100%.
It was a buzzword for a lot of different companies.
Still today, there's companies saying we give you cashback. Asda, for example, it's not cashback, but they call it cashback. They give you cash back in your Asda account. Okay, so it's loyalty points, right? It's not cash. Don't call it cash if you're not going to give it as cash. So we made a commitment when we designed the product. If we're going to call it cashback, it has to be cashback. The customer has to be able to go, I'll actually take this, thank you. And that's fine. If we've got two types of, we perceive two really strong types of customer. There's a customer who uses the cashback on every single order. So they buy something for £15, they get some cashback, and then the next order they just press the button that says use it on this order, and they're just constantly using their cashback. They never build up a balance. And there's another type of customer who builds up a balance, and they, every single time they place an order, they don't use it. They choose not to tick that box because they see it growing, and they're thinking there's a value there. I was going to buy these things anyway. I was going to buy that thing because it's the right price. I'm going to buy this thing because it's the right price. Then over time, they've got this balance, and with that balance, they split into two subgroups. They either then go, I'm going to take that money, I'm going to use that money for another next purchase, and buy something nice for myself, or buy something that I was otherwise not going to be able to buy because this is incremental, this is free money. Or they withdraw it to their bank account and they think, well, I'm going to take that. That doesn't mean that they're exiting OnBuy and we've lost a customer. No, they realize the value of their cashback, probably even more in some cases than the other person, because they're physically taking that cash. There are a couple of other subgroups, like people ordering from work, who build up the cashback balance, and but there are some interesting activities that you get because there's a cashback value there, a bit like air miles and other things that they could get. So no, that it's very interesting to watch the behavioral shifts, and it's great to see customers resonate with the product because it's tangible.
We've seen that you've got a huge customer base in the UK, and they're enjoying this simple, kind of robust and honest cashback mechanism. But we know, having spoken to a fair few different companies, that building something that's simple and works is not easy. And we're in your office at the moment in the south of England, and you look like you've got a great team upstairs. Could you talk to us a little bit about how it has been overcoming the technical challenges behind delivering that value to the consumer?
Yeah, of course. No, companies that make things look simple are not simple at all. And I think a good example of that is Apple. You go back to the original iPhone, if you remember, I mean, it seems like a lifetime ago now, but the original iPhone was so simple that it resonated with everybody for being such a simple product. In fact, before the iPhone, the iPod, right? It was so simple and native, and it's just so easy to use. And it was like, how's this only just happened, right? But that complexity that comes into making something simple. And I think I come from a web development background, a product background. We knew when we built OnBuy where we wanted to get to. But in the UK or Europe in general, it's hard to raise the capital to build a great product. If you're in the US, there's a lot more investment available for product, and you can secure investment easier generally than you can in Europe. So you have to go quite lean in the UK and in Europe to build a product and iterate over time. It's not as easy because you can't get the big bang that you want, where imagine day one OnBuy has already got such money, such value that you can market, millions of pounds to sellers saying this is coming, get all of the supply really quickly. And then when you launch, you've already got cashback and the strong proposition and everything else. And what that does is, because we have this drawn out period that you have to iterate and improve over time, it's hard to give the customer the upfront value of why shop with OnBuy. And then it actually gets harder as you move forward to effectively re-educate the customer as to how OnBuy is getting better as you go, until eventually there's a finished product. And we're not even out of that cycle yet, right? We're still very much delivering product. Cashback is one component of our vision that was exceptionally difficult to deliver, not because cashback itself was complex, but because in the early infancies of OnBuy, we weren't in the money flow. We were actually, originally with Stripe, then with PayPal, in a three-way relationship with PayPal. So it was complicated. We're facilitating a transaction between a buyer and a seller through a third party, which was essentially PayPal, and we're not in the money flow. So the buyer is paying the seller directly, and we take a fee out of PayPal, which is good, and it gave us a fast way to get the business moving and everything else, but also brought a lot of constraint around the money flow. If we have constraint around the money flow, how do you do cashback? I now need to introduce this mechanism that we have a vision for that allows a customer to only partially pay because they've got a balance, but the seller to receive full funds, but the funds aren't there because they're not in PayPal. So it gets complicated. So to be able to deliver cashback, we had to go on a journey of move to a merchant of record marketplace model, which meant that we were in the money flow. The money comes into our financial control. We distribute the money. And by doing that, we can then manipulate to support the cashback balances. So customer can pay with a cashback balance, but what the seller actually gets is cash. We've had to use that money and fill those holes in our financial system. So delivering cashback as a product stems all the way through to how the money moves from the buyer and the seller, as well as all the financial reporting and the stability and the auditing around all of the financial control that's necessary when you're handling millions of pounds, and the money flow between buyers and sellers and cashback withdrawals and all of those things. So it got complicated really quickly, and it meant that the first thing we had to do as a business was invest in our finance team and make sure that before anything we have a robust financial system, strong auditing, strong control, and then go on the journey of changing the way our money moves for our buyers and sellers, then introducing cashback. And it was a 3-year delivery to go from not having cashback to having cashback in terms of building that all out. And then what you end up with is a really simple looking system, but behind it is exceptionally complex and fraught with, complexities and technicalities and control that's vital. So it can't be manipulated, and we have the security warnings and various other bits and pieces we can't talk about that warn if sellers seem to be using too much, or buyers seem to be using too much cashback or whatever. So we have to go on the journey of building a robust product, and we're still in the middle of building that product. In the next 60 days, we'll be launching our first ever official loyalty scheme. Now, cashback itself is a loyalty scheme. But in the next 60 days, we're going to be doing something that allows customers to double their rates of cashback if they subscribe to a loyalty scheme. So then it's on the customer to choose. We give value as standard anyway, but if you want to boost it and you want to be in with higher rates, then there's a way that you can actually get it, and it involves, signing up to a loyalty scheme on top. So if you really like it, you could double it, and that's quite interesting. It's particularly for power users thinking, well, yeah, that's in my interest to sign up for an additional loyalty scheme. Our business, when we originally designed our cashback product, we said it's very important to us that our rewards and our proposition is delivered without cost or without subscription or without data requirements. Just every customer gets that value. Therefore, we can have something that gives you more if you sign up for it, but you shouldn't only be getting the basics by signing up to something. And that's where a lot of businesses have gone wrong. If you look at, JD Sports, for example, changing their loyalty scheme at the moment, which was a subscription-based system, and then now they're trying to quickly move to a different system, because why should a customer have to subscribe to get the value, right? We're happy to do a subscription to increase value, but you've got to give value as standard. So we're going on the journey of taking that cashback model and iterating it. And also in the next 60 days, you'll see we have hot picks at the top of our website. They're our most popular products, the things that are flying off the shelves every day. And that's going through a tweak at the minute so that increased rates of cashback are given in that area. Significant rates. We're talking minimum 5, but all the way up to 30%. So a lot of cashback going in those products, and how we're doing that is complicated. So, and then working with sellers and saying, look, you want to feature your product here, then you need to work with us to increase rates of cashback. So it helps us drive further value to a customer. So there's still a lot to do, and we're not out of the...
Yeah, it sounds like an exciting time. And out of interest, I mean, it sounds like OnBuy has changed. Granted, it's been part of the vision since day one in the UK, but as you start to now break into the international markets and you go over to the US, is what OnBuy is here now, is that going to be the same as in the US? Are you going to take the cashback and the loyalty program into the US markets when you move over?
Well, that was the original plan, was we will not internationalize, so the core product is where we want it to be. Because when I talk about that stretched out roadmap for customers and that re-education for customers, it actually comes at a cost. For every 100 customers you get at day one that don't necessarily understand your competition, I'm not going to get 100 customers back at day 2 when I have the proposition, because it's lost on them. I can't penetrate that customer base as efficiently as if the product was strong at day 1. So for us, getting that product strong and then internationalizing means that what customers in new markets learn OnBuy is right from day 1. It's the marketplace that rewards you, it's the marketplace that gives back, it's the cashback marketplace. And there's never any doubt that whole cohort of first customers that come and use the platform are familiar with exactly what OnBuy stands for at day 1. So we push back our international rollout until all of these components are in place. So right now it's going to, obviously we've got the cashback proposition, we're going to put the loyalty proposition in, going to put the increased cashback rates, which we call cashback deals, in place. We've just launched cashback extras, which is services, a bit like what you can get on cashback sites. If you want broadband or you want mobile phones or whatever, there is a mechanism to go and get additional rates of cashback in the background if you want it. With those products in place, the first country launch will include all of those products. So customers in, for example, the United States will be able to become familiar with exactly what OnBuy is at day 1.
Will you create hubs in the new territories that you enter?
You mean like satellite offices?
Yes.
It depends. So the way we're running international is, I guess the easiest way to put it is it's a little bit MVP. We've worked out in our data where our sellers can supply to. We've worked out, on the other hand, where we think the opportunities are in terms of attracting customers, what our marketing opportunities are, and then overlaid that also with where we have partnerships through either supply, like channel systems, or investors, because we've taken significant investment from, say, Norway, for example, which was invested through Norway Post, as well as, Norway Post actually is big in Sweden, for example, as well. And also we've taken a strategic investment from a Nasdaq floated tech company in the United States, which we're not shouting their name at the moment, but a huge player there. And we have some strategic investments across Europe as well. And we mix all of that together to go, right, where's the opportunity, where's the strategic opportunity, and where's the supply? And then we've come up with an array of what we see as, I hate this expression, but low-hanging fruit, or the obvious opportunity that we have on the table. And then we've worked out 30 countries that we want to go into quite quickly, starting with 14 this year and the rest next year, that will allow us to effectively lean on those opportunities and see which of those entities move relative to the market size, or the e-commerce market size, which of those entities move the fastest for the business. Then we will go on a journey of going, now we can move to phase 2 of those entities. So it's a little bit like putting 30 countries out there, seeing what movements you get, and then backing your winners. And that doesn't mean that the losers or the slow markets are not working. They might just need a bit more energy, and it might be worth that additional energy. But as a business, you only have so much resource. Prioritization is the one thing that kills companies. You have to prioritize where you see the fastest opportunity. So for us, it's a case of going out there with the 30 entities that we see the biggest initial opportunity and then riding them. Once we get through the 30, which will take us a while, especially with the sort of phase 2s, we do have our sights on additional areas as well, but 30 will keep us busy for a minute.
Yeah. Sounds it.
And you've taken on some substantial investment already before. What prompted you to open the Seeders round to the public?
Right, so Seeders is interesting. So that's a secondary raise. So what we did was we raised primary capital through the life cycle of our business. I think to date we've raised around 30 million in funding for the business through venture capital, through angels, through strategic investors. And our last major funding round was in January this year, where we took a strategic investment from the said NASDAQ-backed US company. We didn't require any more funding beyond that strategic. In fact, to be quite honest, we didn't require the strategic funding, but we wanted to, when you do a strategic partnership and you want to prove the other side is taking it seriously too. So part of, let's put an investment piece together that shows that you're absolutely committed. We show we're committed by letting you have a piece of the company, but now we're both vested in making this opportunity in the United States, in North America, and in Europe really work. We're vested. If we 20x the business, you 20x your holding, right? So that was really the main driver for that investment in January. We made a commitment in 2021 that every time we raise primary capital, we will give early shareholders the option to sell some of their shares. When we did it in 2021, we kept it behind the scenes. So what happened was we took a £20 million investment in 2021, which had some strategic investment in there. Then we turned around to our shareholders and said, would you like to sell some shares? And we let some of our early shareholders take a small exit. And it was all done quietly between a private investor and the shareholders in the background. In 2024, we thought there's a better way of doing this, better way for OnBuy. Because if our early shareholders would agree to allow us to publicize the secondary raise, because you're buying shares from an early shareholder, you're not buying shares from the company, but you're still getting the same shares in the company. It's just where the money goes. We don't get the cash, basically. The seller gets the cash. And if we could leverage publicity for this, if we could say, well, do you know what? Because it's secondary, there'll be a discount on the shares because it's just normal to have a discount on secondary shares. We could allow sellers, customers, partners, everyone to get in at this stage right before we exploit the international opportunity that we're about to do. The very opportunity that we just took primary capital for, that all of our strategic investors from 2021 are lined up ready to do, it would allow other smaller entities, individuals, whether it's customers, businesses that back us, to take a smaller slice through the Seeders mechanism. Because we couldn't allow someone to invest £1,000, £10,000, or even less, £500 through our cap table. We couldn't physically support that investment. So Seeders allows us to sell those shares to lots of small shareholders who get the full benefit, exactly the same benefit as the investors who have just bought primary capital, but actually a 20% discount. So the company that bought our primary shares in January paid the full rate, and the people buying through Seeders now are actually getting 20% off that full rate. So we thought, well, we agreed with our early shareholders, let's do £1 million. I got the board approval to allow that to happen. That just puts a bit of liquidity in some of our early shareholders who have backed us since 2016. And it allows for what we wanted was to leverage the opportunity to secure advocates. How do we build a community of new on-buyers, small shareholders, whether it's 20 quid all the way through to, I think we've had up to like 20,000, perhaps a bit more, through Seeders, who want to come on the journey with us and actually be part from the ground as the business grows, because the business is about to deploy loyalty scheme, mobile application, new cashback deals, obviously 30 countries in the next 2 years, and a whole array of other things that we're not putting out to market because we're still keeping them close to our chest, as well as lots of data science work that we're currently doing, AI for product recommendations, search and personalization improvement, all of these things. So we took the opportunity to say, why can't our sellers and our partners benefit from all of this activity by saying, well, put a small investment in, and ride with us, be on the journey, and as we do this, you're in. But we tried to make it clear we don't need the capital. We're fully funded. This is secondary, and the cash doesn't actually go to the business. So,
how long is this opportunity for people to get involved?
It's just the end of this month. I think the doors close at midnight on the 1st of next month. So literally May.
Cool. Wow, Cas, it's very exciting indeed. And unless anything else strikes you as particularly important to kind of mention on microphone and camera,
is there any other issues you want to touch on before?
No, I think it's for us, we always feel like when we come and do a podcast or an interview and people ask us how it's going, we always feel like we wish we could do this in a year, because we do it. But I know if we do it in a year, we're going to be feeling exactly the same in a year. There's always things just around the corner that you're about to do. And we've proven that time and time again. We're in a very small cluster of businesses that have managed to be in Deloitte Fast 50, for example, 4 times, or Financial Times Top 1000 3 consecutive years in a run. In fact, Deloitte, we hit 11th place in the UK 2 years on the run. 11th in both positions, which is phenomenal, because if you think you've got to maintain the growth, and one of those years was 3,400%, which was crazy, right? I mean, so for us, when we get excited by what's round the corner, it's real. Right now we're saying, look, this is the most exciting time, because we know we have hundreds of millions of listings ready to roll out internationally. Seeders make us dull down what we put on there, because you need to be quite far from, you don't want to be held responsible if you don't quite hit this and quite hit that, and there's the FCA risk around Seeders, which is a bit of a pain, but for us, we can see very clearly how to execute rapid growth, and that's why we wanted to open the opportunity to do that now. But we should definitely regroup in a year and talk through what we actually achieved in that 12-month period, because I think it's going to be significant.
Yeah, there's one thing I always like to ask it, just because there's always a human aspect to every business. And as an entrepreneur, it seems that a lot of businesses, they come about either from a pain point, why does this not exist? Or it comes about from, I could do this better. And I'm trying to work out for you which one of those you are, or maybe you're something completely different.
No, I think it's a bit of both. So my background was in web development, and we were building technical solutions, and we had a few different arms to the business. We were working in, a public function. So I consulted for NATO and NHS, but at the same time, we did most of our work, 95% was in e-commerce, helping retailers. And we built our own e-commerce platform years before there was a Shopify or a EKM or whatever there is now. And we drove the business really hard into Europe and helped our clients to extend their business footprint. And all of the conversations that came about with retailers around, scale of economy or leveraging international fulfillment opportunities and all of these things, led me down the road of actually, I'm going to go into more consultancy-based e-commerce work, because people want help to make these things work, which led me to marketplaces, because marketplace was already a core part of our strategy around helping retailers to drive their own business, helping to reduce costs and drive that scale of economy that makes their own website become more valuable. And we would help them build their website, optimize their website, build retention. But fundamentally, if you have high volumes of sales leveraging marketplaces, then you can drive your cost base down on your own website, make more money, right? So it was all logical. But that support through marketplace and learning how different marketplaces work is where the frustration was born, in terms of the market needs a fair marketplace, a marketplace for sellers that delivers strong value but doesn't compete, that doesn't seek to just copy their products or compete in those or manipulate. And then the further I looked into the business model and was starting to see what the marketplace had started doing, because this is 2013, and it's definitely proven that I was right now, was to manipulate customers. It only takes a small search on, Amazon for a TV, and you can't find easily organic results. There's Amazon-owned brands, there's sponsored products. Even the reviews are sponsored now. So you've got to have good reviews, but you've got to pay to get that product there. All of those things that used to be much more transparent for a customer, like these are our highest rated TVs, have fallen away behind shareholder price. How do I get the share price up? How do I get more revenue into the business? And that's where Amazon, for example, have gone on the journey of squeezing every opportunity out of how do we earn more revenue. Now, every company needs to do that. Every company needs to focus on revenue. But at which point do you sacrifice the customer value, or what you promised was always to be customer centric? How can you genuinely say you're customer centric if when I look for a TV, I can't see the highest rated TVs? I only see the highest rated TVs that are paying for ad presence. That's not entirely accurate. So this manipulation led me to think I can do better for the seller over time. It's not going to come at day one, and we're still not perfect. We're still growing. We're still improving. But I can definitely do better for the seller. I'm never going to compete with them. I'm never going to retail products. I'm always going to work with them, and their success is my success, and vice versa. If I don't grow, they don't grow, and none of us win. But if we're all growing, then we're all winning. That was easy. I knew that we could do that. On the customer side, I felt that by not being as manipulative, actually giving customers what they meant when they said highest rating TV, staying true to that customer and thinking, what does the customer expect in this situation? Not what's the best for us in this situation, but what does the customer actually want? And then delivering that loyalty, that proposition that says, hey, we will reward you for this change in behavior. We'll reward you to back OnBuy and be loyal, and we'll give more value back. Those two components would effectively meet number two in what you just said, which is I can do this better. And it's a vision. It's going to take time, because these companies have had 25 years to get their foothold ahead of OnBuy, and we're effectively David and Goliath now in terms of going up against a giant. But we know how that story ends, right? And for us, it was, how do we as a business start to chip away at those mammoth opportunities and say, there's still room in a massive market for a company that does things differently. And you only have to rewind to the 90s and go, Nokia were untouchable. Untouchable. Into the early 2000s, untouchable. No one, imagine being back then and someone coming and going, now there's a company that's going to come and wipe Nokia out. Never in a million years could that possibly happen. And from our perspective, leveraging that international footprint, that proposition and that point of difference, we think actually it's irrelevant whether we knock out the big player or not. It's actually irrelevant because the market's growing, there's emerging opportunity, there's space, and even if you take the big company, the obvious big Amazon out of out of the way, we're competing against department stores, retailers, all kind, and even discount and cashback websites. We're competing in that space. The market's so large for us, it's actually irrelevant whether we even take a blip of Amazon's market share. But with all of these components, why can't we take a blip of Amazon's market share, or more than a blip? So across the whole spectrum, the opportunity is huge, and that's why it's such an exciting proposition. It's why I get out of bed every morning going, what are we doing today? Because it's massive, right? The opportunity is huge.
I'm really like jumping backwards and forwards, but you spoke about next year, and obviously we'd love to do that. But I was wondering, in a year's time, what do you want to have achieved in that time?
Well, we would have cracked international and definitely figured out what our phase 2, what our current international opportunities are, and we should already be on with them. So by May 2025, we should know which of our countries are flying, which aren't. We should have already started backing the ones that are and solving the problems for the ones that aren't. Why is it they aren't? We should have rolled into our next wave of country releases for 2025, which will see us through the whole year. We should have absolutely bolstered our proposition in terms of loyalty and cashback with all of those components execute delivered. And I would imagine by May 2025, might be a slight stretch because I think the goal was summer, but we should have our mobile application out. We've held that back the same way we held international back because we want all of those loyalty and reward propositions to be the key focus of the application. And I did not want a customer to download our app because we get asked this all the time. Why haven't you got an app yet? And I think some people think that's some form of incompetence. It's not, it's strategic. If we build an app today that someone downloads onto their phone that's pretty basic, let's imagine a year ago without cashback because cashback hadn't been refined and optimized and everything else yet, how valuable is that download? When someone downloads an app, it's very different to using a website. They've put it on their phone. And the psychology behind downloading that app, if that app doesn't actually deliver value, that app gets deleted quite quickly. The problem with deleting an app is because it's such a physical psychology in the phone itself where they're thinking, gone, it's rubbish. How do I penetrate in 6 months when that app has completely changed? In their mind, it's crap and I've already had to remove it. So for us, the app is so important to be a core lever for the value proposition that I need all of the cashback pieces, all the loyalty and all of those benefits to be a key component of the app. So when the customer downloads the app, they're instantly getting more value, more rewards, and then there's no reason to remove the app. So for me, by then we should have also cracked our mobile application, which will be rolled out internationally alongside the international launch.
That's great. It seems to be like a theme running through OnBuy that you've got these great ideas, but you have the patience to actually wait to deploy them at the right time. The same way, obviously from day one, you had this idea of cashback, but it wasn't going to work from day one, in your view. So it's the same sort of theme running through it, which is really nice to see.
It's different, but I mean, I've met lots and lots of founders, lots of entrepreneurs that have gone through the VC landscape or trying to do the next thing or desperately trying to grow their revenue. But I think one of the things that I pride myself on is a good intuition of not just the idea, but how to execute the idea. Sometimes, how many people have you met that say, we could do that, I could do that better, this is my idea, it's fine. But actually bringing that idea to fruition and doing it's 500 times more complicated than anyone can possibly imagine. I'm sure you've all sat in a bar or sat in uni or sat with friends and they've gone, hey, I could do Amazon better because I wouldn't do that or I wouldn't do this. Yeah, but to get to that point of being able to make that minor decision that you're focused on, you've had to build a giant logistics business, global warehousing, all of the problems that come with that, the marketing, the exposure. It's not simple. And I pride myself on execution. So if we say we're going to do a mobile app, it's not that I'm going to drop the app tomorrow. Part of delivering that product is when, how, and how do I make it actually work? Because otherwise I could say, I've already done a mobile app and it didn't work for us. It actually wasn't a great channel. Is that right? Or is that because it was not a great product and delivered in the right way? Because imagine the iPhone when it first came out without the right packaging, without the right promotion, without the right timing when it came out was so crucial. And the market was screaming for it at that time. And there's instances in history even where and I say recent history, not long history, but recent history in the past 30, 40 years, where some products come out too soon before things are ready. Cashback, we saw the economic squeeze hitting the market, and we felt we could see that was coming. 2021 wasn't quite there. It was quite a buoyant market. It was a bull market. We had capital to invest. Everyone was buying everything. It was crazy in 2021. But as we come forward now, more frugal, people being smarter, people want to use their buying power more wisely. And we realized that, being in this market, this is the time to deploy a value proposition when people would care more about the product. So I think timing is really important. The product is really important. And therefore being patient around those two things is vital. Otherwise you could just have the thing and it's lackluster. It doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah, you seem to have a focus on functionality, not vanity. We see a lot of businesses who launch an app for that kind of initial KPI. We've had X amount of downloads, but how does it play into the long-term strategy of the business? It really doesn't at all, and it's detrimental. And that seems to be a characteristic that you've brought through of the business from start to where we are today. And I think it should give people faith for the exciting time ahead, because it's quite a big undertaking you have ahead of you. But it seems to me that you're a chap who means what he says, so exciting time.
Thank you. No, one of the things that I think all of our investors, our shareholders, new and old, will either already know or will learn if they're new to the table, is that if we say we're going to do something, we absolutely follow through on what we're going to do. And that's why being honest and upfront about when and how and why, I can usually explain why we haven't done something yet, or if there is a delay on something, it's strategic and not a mistake, or there's still lots of learnings in the things that we're doing, and not everything is going to work. That doesn't mean it's a mistake. We're trying to try different things, but as a business, if we say we're going to do something, we actually do it. We say we're going to launch all of these countries, we're going to do the loyalty scheme, we're going to do the app, we're absolutely going to do it. There are people upstairs, and there's 100 people around the UK working on that right now, to make sure that we achieve these goals and we don't budge or bend on them. So in a year's time, the only one that might not be out will be the app, but we will definitely have solved loyalty, proposition, countries, and the app will either be out or not very far away.
It's really exciting. Can't wait to see it.
Very exciting indeed. Thank you, Cas, for your time today.
Thank you.
It's been a really interesting conversation.
One we will continue next year.
Yes, that's
Awesome.
great. Thank you.